Hello there, this is Janet. I wanted to share with you some tips about things that you'll see happening in the bar classes that I've put together as my own program. One thing that you're always going to notice is I typically prefer to use a chair. You can use countertop, couch, or if you're in a studio, an actual ballet bar. I've sort of gone to the chair even when I'm at my beautiful studio at Retro Fitness that has a ballet bar, because there I can only fit a certain number of people on the bar, and I find that using the chair in the middle of the studio allows the participants to spread out more and everybody has a good view of themselves in the mirror. It makes us able to quickly transition and change sides. I sometimes will use the chair like this, and people have plenty of room. I also sometimes even like to sit on the chair. So anyway, that's why you'll see me usually using a chair. So you'll also see me going away from any kind of balance point, because that's when your core really has to switch on, and you know if you're in alignment. For instance, if I'm using the chair, which I often do, of course, and say I'm doing a side lift, sliding out and closing my heels together. It's very easy to sort of lean in. Even you might not even notice you're leaning in a little bit. But we need to stabilize with these gluteal muscles, with our core, to be in good alignment. So the chair's there very lightly, and then you just take your hand off the chair. You find out very quickly if you were leaning a little bit and what you need to tighten to give yourself stability if you were lacking that. For instance, watch. I'm going to do that side point out and close. And right now, let me cheat a little bit, I'm thinking I'm standing up nice and tall. Now, some of you with a good eye probably noticed I just sort of sunk into this hip a little bit. You might not have noticed that. But when I let go, there I go. As opposed to very minimal, some of you might not even notice, I'm going to tighten up through this hip joint a little bit tighter. I'm going to feel more engaged through my inner thigh up through my pelvic floor and into my core, keeping this tight, not leaning into it. And then I can look mom, no hands, as opposed to, here it comes, if I was leaning into that leg too much, there goes your balance. So even when we're doing exercise that I'm showing you that I'm holding on to the chair, you're going to hear me say sometimes, can you let go? And that's why I'm saying that. And then often we'll take that combination that we did off away from the chair and try it without, but it's always right there within reach. All right, so another thing I wanted to point out is positioning. There's that turnout, which I think some of us might be getting older. I'm told that I am not quite on board with that. But anyway, I know back when I was a dancer, I was really working on stretching and opening my hips, but now it's been 35-ish plus years that I need to do that. So I've been more in everyday life, more forward and back in that plane of motion. So I've lost that turnout that didn't come naturally to me. So anyway, I'm sure a lot of you are in the same boat, right? So when we go in to a first position, or I call it a little Pilates V because I'm so Pilates entwined with my bar, I'm not trying to turn my feet completely out from 3 to 9, because watch what happens to old Jay if I try to be there. I'm rolling into my big toes. I'm not able to get my pinky toes down, so I'm rolling in when I'm trying to turn out too much for me, right? That's caving my pelvis, that's making me tilt. Well, that's not a good place to be. And I'm feeling everything in my knees. A lot of bad things are going on here. So what I need to learn to do, what you need to learn to do, is be true to where your skeleton is. As you do these exercises, you are going to create more mobility in your hips, but we're not going to force it. So what I do is I rock back on my heels, my feet are in parallel, and I just go turning from my hips, boop, boop. Where can I open the doors to? Making sure that my middle hip, my knee, all the way down, middle toe are all in line. Because when we start bending and straightening or plie-ing, you want those knees tracking, just like when we're in traditional exercise and squatting and doing lunges. We want our knee tracking towards our middle toe. So you'll know you're in a good amount of turnout for you if you're able to keep your pinky toes down on the floor and your tailbone, if you could see it, going straight down. There it is. It's my little tail going straight down. My pinky toes are down. My chest is up. I'm moving vertically. My knees are going over my middle toes. So this is what it looks like if that's not happening. Maybe my knees are caving in and my pinky toes are coming up. Oh, well, there goes my tail, right? Things are going out of whack. And now I hurt my knees. And that stays true for when we go into wide or open position or second position. A lot of us, when we have our feet wider, have the capability of opening the hips more, and there you might be prone to over-rotating beyond your capabilities of your skeleton and your mobility that you have at the moment. So you'll know that you are not working well if, as you're out there, you turned your feet out because your ankles have that mobility, but your hip might still be more internally rotated than your ankle. The ankle foot needs to be in line with your hip. How do you know it's there? Because you can't really see inside without the x-ray. As you plie, as you bend, you're getting a nice line from your mid-hip to your knee to your middle toe, right? Not caving in, not rolling into the big toe. So you'll hear me often saying things like, only bend as far that you can keep your pinky toes down on the floor. There, I'm hoping that you're not rolling in, right? And then trying to get a bigger knee bend, therefore. So you need to stay true to the depth in any plies that we're doing, in any position that we're in, that you're keeping that alignment. And that's okay, even if you're not plieing as low as I am. I know when I started this program a couple years ago at Retro, that was the first I was starting to do these movements for a really long time. And so I know then that I had a lot more tightness in through here than I do now. And I'm looking forward to continuing the program and working with you all so that I can keep getting better too. It's a journey, right? And I just really want to emphasize, again, just dialing back, stay within your comfort zone and maybe just a little bit of push outside of it once in a while so that you can grow, so you can improve, but gradually. I don't want you to have pain. I want you to feel gains, yeah? So talking about those positions, the movement patterns that we'll do, I keep them really basic. We're not here to audition for the New York City Ballet, although Linda Go-Bright, I still think you might have a shot, might have that. But anyway, back to the task at hand. We don't need to, again, go beyond our limits. I don't need to be using French ballet type terms with you. You'll hear me use those terms a little bit. I'll say plie, most people know what that means. I'll say releve or just lift and lower. In a plie, I might say bend and stretch, right? I might say push and pull, right? Positioning, I already said, in first position, I might just say make a Pilates V. That's wrapping, zipping, and just, as I said, it's almost like a little piece of pizza. How big of a piece do you want? Domino's delivers. Anyway, my son works there now. Fourth position can be really tricky and difficult in that turnout. When we're there, it's 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. Often that's what I'll say instead of fourth position. You don't need to know all that, right? So anyway, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, we know that. We do this all day long in body pump and our team training conditionings and our strong training, our traditional exercise, we do lunges. So if we want to take that into ballet fourth, well, all we have to do is add a little turnout. But guess what? Where my feet are for my 90-90 is not where I can personally place my feet in turnout and get anything going on here. So you'll notice often you need to shorten the distance between your feet forward and back to again be true to you where you can do the movement. So watch. Let's say I want to do a fourth position exercise. Pinky toes down. Really got to watch my lordosis. Hips slightly tucked for me to keep them aligned under my ribs, but I'm not tucking. Okay, we'll get to that next. But anyway, as I bend my knees, I'm still, and I'm going to turn aside a little bit, I'm still a little bit, for me, a little too front and back distance, because I can feel that here I'm just not able to keep my back foot pinky toe down and get the same degree feeling of knee bend or plieing. I'm really feeling my back foot rolling. You probably can't see that, but it's sort of rolling into my instep. And then that's putting my knee at a very dangerous angle and just doesn't feel good. So when we go into these positions, sometimes whatever we're doing, you might need to change the distance between your feet, and that's okay. Dial back whatever we're doing, when we're bending, when we're plieing, both feet, pinky toes down, maybe even a little bit of a lift through the arch, but the big toe is pressed down. So even do that with me now. In any position, think about pinky toes down, big toe down, and a little bit of lift up through the arches. As soon as I did that, I felt my glutes engage, my quads engage. And then we want to watch, where is our pelvis? We need to keep it under the ribs. I always think about the ribs being the lid on top of my hips. And I have a problem. My posture likes to go here, so I really need to watch that. And you might too. So that brings us to that point. And my final point for today is, where are we in neutral spine working in our bar class and in everyday functional living in all exercises you do? We want to be lined up from our ankle bone to our hip. See, there I went. I didn't even notice I could see it. Rib cage, not flared out. That's where mine likes to go. Tupperware lid, right down on the hips. Shoulders, ears. A lot of us have that forward head thing going on because we're here all the time. I know I do. You need to really pull this back and try to keep the curve of our neck. A lot of us are getting tension headaches. We're getting pinched nerves in the neck, which is caused by the forward head position, which is decreasing our natural curve of our neck that holds our head. It's starting to make us lose our curve, and that causes a lot of that pain. I learned that from Dr. McClyman, who partners with us at our gym. So anyway, that's another whole issue, but there's your alignment anyway. And so that's when you're doing your bends, your plies, your releves, whatever it is that you're doing, you're wanting to work on keeping that alignment. So I've been around, and to develop this bar program, I have been certified in several different programs that I bring and melt into mine, what I've created. And I visited a lot of bar studios to learn what they're doing, what I like, what I don't like, so that I could bring it all together to something that I like, that comes from my heart to my class. So with that being said, I've heard a lot of things that some programs do that I personally, from my background of fitness, I don't agree with. One that I think the biggest one is, you'll hear instructors say to tuck the tailbone under. All right, one, We are not, again, training to be real ballerinas. We're trying to get the best conditioning and benefit of dance exercise for our bodies at the age that we are and at the fitness level and mobility abilities that we have. Mobility abilities, yeah. So anyway, with that said, when we are doing movement, yeah, I have to, because I'm going to exaggerate it, I have a very natural lordotic curve. I, and some of you, may need to actually engage a little bit of a pelvic tuck, holding with our low belly muscles to maintain our pelvis under our ribs. We have to train that. We want that to become proprioceptive, because if we do, then we can move and function better. But anyway, so those of us with that, we do have to tuck. As we're doing movement, you might try, even if you don't have this issue, you might start playing and you might try to go lower than you should, and to get there, you're going to take your tailbone back. And your instructor or I will say, tuck your tailbone under. What I don't mean is this. I don't mean to tuck your tailbone under and create flatness in your low back. All right? I don't want you to feel like you are trying to press, is this going to hold me? Your low back into a wall and maintain that. I want you to be working in functional neutral spine. You have a curve, keep the curve, but keep the tailbone straight down. So this, I am tucking a little bit, probably a little bit more than those that do not have a natural lordotic curve, all right? Or we'll use the term tuck, or you'll think of that if you're going too low that you feel your tailbone going back. We want to bring it under, but we're not bringing it under and forward. You see the difference? It's like a naughty puppy. But anyway, that is a really key issue, a key thing to learn, because you start doing things like that, you start working out of neutral spine, you're going to hurt your back, and that's not what you signed up for. So with that said, very quickly, when I do the one song that we use, a gliding disc, and you'll hear me say, oh, the class that I taped over at the gym, I used our Val slides. Here I have a glider disc, and I said you could use a napkin or a paper plate, anything to help you move the leg a little bit longer than you normally would. All right, so with that said, yeah, I can take my leg all the way out here because I'm fairly flexible, but one, can I get it back in, right? But am I going out as far as I can, keeping all of those elements that I just talked about? So right here, I'll turn to the side for you. Right here, as I abduct or go out, I could go a little bit further, but if I do, look where I go, all right? So in this particular exercise, I want my hips to go straight down and up, and I'm pushing out and pulling in. Gives me a nice smooth feel, right? But I'm only going as far that it's a little further than I normally would, keeping this all in line, my pinky toe down, my knee tracking, and pulling up. Same as when I go forward. This is a big one you'll hear me talk about a lot. When we're moving forward, or even if without a disc, if we're doing any type of kick, some of us will try to kick higher by tucking. So you'll hear me say, only lift as high as your hamstring flexibility will allow, as your quad strength will allow, as your core will allow. Let's not get higher because we're doing this. So same thing with the glider disc. As you slide it forward, we're sitting the hips straight down. We're not going so far that we tuck under. Going back, anytime that we're reaching back, we are going to feel our back muscles, our glute muscles. We don't want to go so far that we're here, right? How far can you go that you can get back up, that you can sit your hips straight down, that you can pull up, that you can keep your abdominals engaged, to keep your hips under, like in lunges, and come up. Always, when we're working anything in the back of the body, my experience for you is core engagement. We often think anytime we're doing anything in the back of the body, even if it's laying on the floor or being in a bird dog exercise, right, that we're working the back, now we're all the way down and we're doing swimmer. Any exercise that we're doing, training the back, we often think, or don't even think about it, we often just let our abdominals go, whoop, because, oh, they don't have to work right now. Back's doing the exercise. Well, honestly, when you're working the front of your body, the back of your body is giving you stabilization. It's often happening quite easily. Well, when you're working anything in the back of the body, be it a lift, be it when we use the ball or not, and we squeeze and lift, any type of exercise engaging the back muscles, I'm always going to cue you to engage the abdominals. Give your back something to work from. All right, so we're always going to be pulling in, not letting that happen. And lastly, since I have the ball, in the first bar workout that I gave you, you'll see that I sometimes use the ball or not use the ball, and then I grab it to show you. When I come down here, it makes it really nice that I can grip the ball and place it into the floor, that I don't have to go all the way 6 more inches down to the floor. So if you don't have a ball, when we're doing that exercise, just put a pillow on the floor that you don't have to go all the way to the floor if you're lacking that flexibility. I love using the ball in that routine at the very end when I ask you to really hold the leg up and bend and extend, because then I can open up my palm and push into the ball and get a little leverage. And then last about that exercise, I'm looking up at you right now. I want you to hang your head. Let your neck be an extension of your spine, sort of looking at my shin bone there, right? There we go. I'll tell you to go down and stretch, taking chest towards thigh, really pressing back, and then coming up. So I think those are all the points I wanted to make, and I hope that you really enjoy my bar program. Get to it. Have a great night.